everything I did when it came to, manuscript and picking up the pen was influenced by one man. And it may seem crazy to some people, but this one man died almost 200 years ago. His name was Frederick Douglass. When I read his book, it gave me the inside track on how slave masters thought. I read his book and one chapter stuck out to me, and that's when he was talking about his auntie Hester. He said in the book, and I quote, his auntie Hester was so beautiful and her physique was so fine that everybody in the neighborhood was jealous of her. When I say everybody, I'm talking about the white folks. These are the slave masters that own the slaves, were jealous of her. Anyhow, I kept reading other things to get my mind into what I wanted to see with this snapshot that I was trying to, envision or whatever. And it led me to another book I was in. It was called Slaves in the Family. And this book took me back 300 to 400 years before Frederick Douglass was even born. He was born in the 1800s. And this book laid out the blueprint of how blacks that looked like me had Caucasian blood. And it laid out this caveman curriculum on how these slave masters were bloody rapists. And they took out their frustration on black women that they couldn't take out on the white women that they had for as their wives. And this domino effect started what we know today. And I have to be very careful about me saying certain things because I don't want to get shadow banned. I don't. But I knew this guy. I'm not going to name drop him. It was kind of hilarious how he would describe this thing to me. But he told me he read a lot of this stuff and it gave him a fetish for our Caucasian sisters and sisters. It was this lady. She was a second generation florist. Her mother passed and left her with a whole bunch of money. The lady was in her 70s, but she was a nymphomaniac. And by her being a nymphomaniac, she craved that blackness. You understand? He was introduced to this lady through one of his cousins. And he say when he went to her to go to seduce her, her husband was always there. He had ED. And I think everybody know what ED mean. I don't gotta, justify what those words, what those initials mean. But he always wanted to watch. And my guy told me that he took out all the frustration of the years and it gave him a fetish for the white women. Well, some of us call them snow bunnies. It gave him a fetish. But the crazy part about it was he went to the lady thinking that it was a fetish for him, and he slipped and fell in love. He slipped and fell in love. It's a true story. So how he describing this was, it would be 2 or 3 of them waiting, but the guy had to be in there. The husband had to be on there. She was paying them $75, $80, or $100 a pop, whoever did what they needed to do best. And the guy would sit there, and he would come out drenched in sweat, and he say the husband would be sitting at the door to tell him, "You about killed her, didn't you? You about killed her, didn't you?" But my guy told me that mom had got so good to him, he threw out all the things that he learned about the old slave days that he wanted to take out if he ever got a chance to mix that blood. But he fell in love. He say he would be across the street. This is a true story, as honest as the sky is blue. He say he would be across the street hiding in the bushes trying to see who was coming over to the house to see the old lady. He fell so deeply in love that he started telling her to keep the money. He ain't want the money. And all this came from years of what we had heard, that what they did to our color